So this is Michael and Tara from Living on a Dime, and we're joining you today to talk about how we paid off debt. We paid off a bunch of it. We talked about it last week some, and we forgot to tell you some important things. So, go ahead.
So we were talking about last week different things we did to save money while we were on there, and that's kind of the most important part. Melissa wants to know what kind of debt was it. When we got married, Mike had $3,000 worth of just credit card, blew it
stupid
debt,
spending.
stupid spending, and he said it, not me. And then we had a daughter that was born and put in NICU, and they did not pay for the flight for life. She was born in a little tiny country hospital, and they wouldn't pay for the flight for life to get her to an NICU. And then we crashed 2 cars, and we took out a 0% loan on our credit cards for those 2 cars. All of this we did with 0% interest. So I transferred credit cards all over so that we had 0%. Can you go back to YouTube, please? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. Okay, hey, we're on YouTube. Hello, Deep South Homestead, and Big Bear's on there. And Old Ways, New Times. Oh, that's a new one. I don't remember seeing that one on there before.
Did you say Kitty's Homestead?
Oh, Kitty's Homestead and Revelation Homestead.
Icky Can Off Grid.
And Songbird. Hello, everyone.
For those of you who don't know, our Saturday night show is part of the Homestead Network.
Yes.
So we have a lot of Homestead people that we work with on YouTube who do shows throughout the later part of the day on Saturday and Sunday, right?
Yes.
Maybe Friday too?
Yes. And if you're on Facebook, we have a whole bunch of videos on our YouTube channel, so go there because we are uploading additional videos even above the live videos. So we talked about last week about how we did different things to save money, and I'm not going to go back over all of those. It was stuff like buying things at garage sales. We pretty much bought nothing new. We kept our grocery bill at $125 for 4 of us. Well, it was the 2 of us, and then we had 2 kids. So it was 2 of us, and then it was 2 kids, about 4 and under. Our grocery bill was about $125 a month, and so I talked a lot about that. But we forgot a couple of things that were kind of important. And the first one was we used every additional piece of income or extra money that came to us that we didn't expect to pay off our debt. So if we got an income tax return, we did not go out and buy a new big screen TV. We did not go out and buy a new couch. We put it on our credit cards.
And not only that, but if we had more than one debt, which we started with more than one debt, we paid off the smallest one first. Because each one has a certain amount of minimum payment you have to make. And once you completely clear one out, all the money that was from that is available to pay the next one, right?
Yes. So we paid off, as we paid off our credit cards, we just kept that same payment and put it on the additional one. So that was probably the next thing was we didn't go out and recharge. Once we decided we were going to be out of debt, we did not charge anything for that. Now, the one exception was when we decided to self-publish our books. We did put the printing cost, which was $9,000, on our credit cards at 0% also. And that,
how many of you are saying, is that all?
Yeah, so that was our business loan, but it was still 0%. And what I would do is every 6 months I would transfer from 0% card, and then when that was about to expire, I would transfer to the next 0% card. And I never had, in the 5 years we did that, I never had to pay a transfer fee or anything, because at the time you could transfer for free because they were just vying for your, every credit card was just trying to get you. So, but then towards the end, I did pay one $75 transfer fee, but that was still way, way, way cheaper than paying interest on all that debt. And so
Lottie Da asks who offers 0%.
I have no
Everybody.
idea now.
We still get a lot of 0% offers. But when Tara says 0%, one thing she didn't tell the whole story, which is that my debt before we got married was a pretty small amount, but I made a very small amount of income. And at the time, I think the lowest interest rate I could get was something like 14%. And at some point, we got an offer from a credit card company for 6 or 8%. So we went ahead and took that. And then we transferred it. We got another offer to 3%. And we took that. And basically what happened is, as we continued to make the payments on time for the lower cards, they would see us as a better risk, and there was more competition for us. And now all the offers we get are 0%.
Yeah, and Lisa says, that's my problem. I pay off the card and then I charge it again. We did not do that. You can't do that. And so...
Well, there was one time, I think, where we said, this card is for only emergencies. We're not going to charge anything unless it's an emergency. And I think we bought a car, didn't we?
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. We put the car on one of those. That was included in that debt. But
there's a point where we thought, no emergency is going to be big enough.
Yeah.
You have to get to that point, or else everything is going to be an emergency.
And so a lot of them will do 0% for 6 months or a year. And we still get those offers all the time, and we have excellent credit. And part of the way to do that is to get good credit. Pay your bills on time. All the time, pay your bills. If you know you're going to be late, call the company and tell them you're going to be late and tell them when you are going to pay it, and they won't ding you on your credit. Don't keep charging. Have one card where you use for Amazon or whatever, but pay it off each month. We do have credit cards, but we only pay them off every single month. And so we are still getting offers all the time for those.
We do occasionally get offers for higher interest rates, but if we wanted a 0%, we just have to wait a week or two, and we get several of them in the mail.
And you can build up your credit, and if your credit stinks, then take 6 months and build up your credit. Then you need to take that time right now, and instead of paying off your debt, stay current with your current bills. If you can only pay the minimum on your card, pay the minimum plus $5. But pay all your bills on time first. Then any extra money at all, and I mean anything, if you get tax refunds, if you get a gift from family to help you out, if you have a garage sale, get a second job. If you need to, get a second job. We're not talking forever, but at least for 6 months to 2 or 3 years until you get it paid off, you can work a second job.
Well, and we were surprised how many things come that you don't realize. Like, we would get the tax refund. Every now and then we would get, here's $50 refund from the electric company because we overcharged you, or your escrow balance is off and we're sending you a check. Mm-hmm. And some of those things, like the escrow balance, it's possible later they might come and revise that. But we thought, for now at least, we're going to put it on there and just chop this debt away.
Mm-hmm. And then we had a couple of garage sales. And the only thing we didn't do was, if we got birthday or Christmas money, we did save that and spend it for ourselves. So like Mike, he wanted a new camera. He would save that for Father's Day or Christmas or birthdays. He would ask for cash to save up with that. Now, Mom does not agree with that. She thinks that you should put everything on your credit cards. Me, I think you need to have a little bit of, something for you now and then while you're doing this, especially if it's going to be a long time and you're cutting out a lot of things. But
it needs to be a small thing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say, I just want something for me, and I'm going to only spend $800 a month on it. Well, that's just ridiculously expensive.
I want something for me, so I'm going to go buy a new car. Or, we got our tax refund, I think I need a new TV. No, you don't. Go to the thrift store and buy a used TV. That's the kind of things we did. Let's see. Megan says, student loans are killing my credit.
That's a problem. Unfortunately, the best solution to that, which is too late for you on that, what you have already, is not to do it. in the first place.
So for the people who are considering getting student loans for your kids in college, I cannot believe the number of parents who pay for their kids' college. To me, that is flabbergasted. There's no way we would pay $200,000 for our kids' college, period. But don't go into debt. If you can't afford to pay cash for college, and I know there's going to be a lot of flack, but don't. It's not worth it. And don't give me that you can't get a job without a college degree. It's just not true. I can tell you person after person who has a college degree with student loans and they're not using it.
So essentially we would recommend if you don't have college debt, don't get it in the first place. And we've kind of talked about some other options we've been working with our kids to help them avoid that. But once you have that debt, you kind of have to assume it's like a credit card debt, because it's actually worse than credit card debt, because credit card debt, if you someday throw up your hands and go bankrupt, credit card debt can go away. Student loans, if they're federally backed, cannot.
Yeah.
So,
and if you have student loans, it's the same thing. Do whatever you can, get a second job or whatever, or if your husband's working, maybe he needs to get a second job, and just really cut back and get those things paid off so that you're not having them hang over your head for years and years. And Anne-Marie said, what do I do about an overabundance of medical bills? I totally get it. That's a huge problem. Even with supposedly the great medical care we're supposed to have, right, coverage we're supposed to have now, I know that's not true. And I know lots of people who are just being stuck with thousands of dollars in medical bills. The first thing to do is talk to the billing company and tell them, just say, I don't have it. So I'm willing to set up a payment plan, but check and see if you qualify for things like Medicaid. If you do, I have no problem with you taking it if you qualify for it. At this point, you really kind of have no choice, and I would do that.
So if you qualify for it, your income is probably pretty low.
Yeah.
So.
And if you don't qualify for things like Medicaid, tell them, I'm going to be paying cash for this. I don't have the insurance. What can I get? How much can I get it reduced if I'm paying cash for this? We just had a friend of ours say that they had $37,000 in medical bills. And they went to the hospital and they said, we don't have health insurance, so we can't cover this. And in the end, they came to find out that it was going to be, how much was it, $1,300?
It ended up being, I think it was.
I think it ended up that they only had to pay like $1,300 to the hospital in the end. And they didn't say why it went down so low, but just talk to them.
They just let them know their situation, and they were paying, they were willing to pay, and they said they were wanting to arrange a payment plan, and they got a call for a lower amount and then a lower amount. And actually, I hate to say it, but when we were really in bad shape financially, when we put our daughter's medical bills on there.
Yeah, we made a mistake.
We transferred it to a 0% card right away because we thought we're going to, be responsible and pay a lower percent interest. Well, then Tara's brother, they had a lot of medical bills related to their daughter, and they just were paying straight to the hospital, and the hospital just one day said, we're just going to write that off, because we don't think you guys can pay it. And we were thinking, wow, we were kind of not thinking when we did that.
We didn't talk to the hospital first. We just assumed we were going to be stuck with the bill, and we ended up paying $12,000 when we probably wouldn't have had to pay most of it. Or, a portion of it at least.
And they might not take it all off, but if the rates they're billing you are insurance rates and they find out you're cash pay, they are likely to lower that rate anyway.
Yeah. Susan wants to know, is there initial fee to transfer to 0% credit cards? Sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't. You just have to ask them. I don't know what the offers are right now, but at the time it was like $75. But what I would do is they would say, there's a $75 fee to transfer this. And I'd say, that's fine. If I'm talking to Chase, I'd say, that's fine. Bank of America sent me an offer for 0% with no fees, so I'm just going to go with them. And Chase would say, oh, well, we'll waive the fees this time for you. Well, this time happened for 6 months, or for every 6 months for 5 years. And so just tell them you're going to go somewhere else if they're going to charge you a fee, and they may waive it. They may not, but it's worth asking for.
And the thing about transferring cards is you kind of have to do it. If it's 6 months at that rate, around 5 months you need to be thinking, how are we going to get this onto something else? And like I said, after we just did that for a short amount of time, and they offered us dramatically lower rates until we got to 0%.
Yeah. And, one thing is stop paying late fees and bank fees. Guys, hello, I know people who will pay $300 to $600 a month just in overdraft charges. That is crazy. Stop it now. And the thing is it's not people who are in true dire straits. These are people who are just being frivolous with their money.
Or just not paying attention because it's electronic and you don't balance your checkbook anymore.
So make sure before you buy anything that you have the money. If you need to, go to cash only. Put your check in, pull the cash out, and only carry the cash with you and use that for spending so you're not overdrawing. But late fees, that's a huge amount that you could be putting towards your credit cards if you're just paying for late fees alone. So,
well, not only that, the thing about 0% cards versus 14% versus, I know some people are up in the 30s, and I feel like the mob was after me for that. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, if you pay on time, every time for a certain amount of time, they start to think, hey, we can rely on you to pay on time. And then they give you lower rates, and you save the money from those fees. That's more money you can put to pay down the principal. And the thing is, the principal is the amount of money you actually owe, and the interest is how much extra you have to pay each month because you're borrowing that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you pay a certain amount of principal, it takes a lot of interest off.
Yeah.
So if you just pay the minimum, you're pretty much paying the interest and a tiny bit of principal. So if you pay extra principal, each extra bit is really taking a lot off the total.
Maureen wants to know, can we view this from the beginning? Yeah, when it's over with, it'll still be on Facebook and YouTube, so you can go check it then. But wait, go back to Smith. There was another question I want to answer. Scroll down just a little bit. And Tasha said, how do you catch up on a bill if it's 3 months behind? Well, you find extra money. You have a garage sale, you get a second job, taking babysitting or dog walking or whatever you can do to get caught up.
And usually a little bit of each of those.
Yeah. And if you have a cell phone plan that's like $100 a month, find a plan that's $20 or $50 a month. Cut back.
Get one that's text and talk only, maybe with a teensy tiny amount of data, and then just use it at Wi-Fi spots.
Yeah, you don't need a smartphone. You just need a phone to get you by. And so you could do that. If you have a landline and a cell phone, cut your landline and only use your cell phone. Cut back $50 on your groceries a month. Anything you can do that will help.
Actually, Maureen's question from the beginning, I'm not sure if you can do this on Facebook, but if you're watching on YouTube, you can start it at the beginning. You just won't be current with the current questions and answers, but you can do that while we're still on live on the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, Terry said she had a bunch of problems, and couldn't pay her bills. Occasionally, you do have to claim bankruptcy. If there is a medical reason or something like that, she said she has MS. Those are times when what bankruptcy is for. Bankruptcy is not for people who are able to work, and they just got behind on their bills, and so they don't want to pay them now. They are for people who have medical problems and that kind of thing. So, sometimes bankruptcy is called for, and I would say in your situation that I would do that. Let's see. Is there any other questions that...
Sure. Actually, there were quite a few people talking about being open with the doctor's office and getting better rates for that, so...
Yeah.
Basics to Living says carrying a lot of cash is not a good idea.
I'm not saying carrying it all. I'm just saying take it out and carry what you need at the time. Put it under your mattress or whatever.
And for most things, you're not going to need a lot of cash.
Yeah.
Normally.
No. So,
Yeah, Kitty's Homestead says Medicaid applicants are eligible for a free phone from Lifeline. That's true. And the thing about those phones is they're not fancy. I don't think they're fancy. Not smartphones. It's just a phone. So if you have an emergency, you can call somebody, and that's all.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you're in a lot of debt, even if you love your phone and you're super attached to it, and especially if you're on Medicaid, I would make it go away and start chipping away that debt.
We're talking ninja saving here. You know, we're not talking, oh, my life isn't going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be very uncomfortable. You're not eating out. You're getting rid of the smartphones. You're getting rid of the car payments. You're getting rid of, you're turning your electricity, your air conditioner up, and you're turning your heat down. So run your heat at 65, 68 in the winter, and in the summer run your air conditioner at 78, 80. You know, even 85 is really unreasonable, and just run a fan instead. So
Bumblebee Junction says paying for things with cash forces you to acknowledge what you're spending, and that's very true. And that's the problem with a lot of people with credit cards is you can swipe that card without even hearing the person say how much it costs.
Yeah.
And until you can get to the point where you stop, you're filling up a bucket with a big hole in it.
Yeah, you just can't. You have to stop spending. And we even know some people that decided to sell their house and move in with her mom so that they could get all their stuff paid off and get back into the black. Black? Is that right? Into the black again. That didn't sound right when it came out. And so you may have to do something drastic. Now,
well, and the thing on that is people talk about it like giving up thousands of dollars of nothing expenses each month is drastic, but really what we're talking about, you still have your basic things. It's just you're not spending a lot of money to make people spend money on credit cards because they think it's going to make them happy to buy something now, and then when they buy it they don't really care about it anymore. And I think for me, in the days when before I married Tara, I only had $3,000 worth of debt when we met, but that was huge for my income at the time. But I had kind of come to the point in my mind of realizing, wow, I'm really irritated now that I have to pay this bill for food that I ate 4 years ago. And then I was realizing to myself, man, you know, it was $40 for that meal 4 years ago, and I've been paying interest on that ever since. That's going to cost a lot more than $40.
So your $40 meal is now $500.
Yeah, and so one thing to really consider if you're thinking, man, I really don't want to have to cut back, is there's a lot of stress associated with those bills continuing to come. And especially if you get to the point where you don't open your bills or you're dodging people on the phone who are calling, the stress is going to kill you.
Yeah.
And it's worth saying. In fact, when I was at that point, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to watch TV because it was free. Rather than playing video games or buying new movies or whatever in my off time, or as Tara was saying, you know, doing extra things. And when we were married and we were getting out of debt, we did a lot of extra things.
Yeah.
So did we talk about my selling?
Oh, yeah. So another thing that we did to pay it off was Mike had a Star Wars collection that he had from when he was a kid, when the original Star Wars came out. His grandmother bought him all kinds of...
She bought me a few to begin with, and then I kind of bought a lot on top of that. But what happened is, I actually had more than just Star Wars stuff. I collected things because I thought it was a thing to do, and people would say, that's valuable, you should hang on to that. And at the time, we were trying to get out of debt. eBay was brand new. And I thought, well, you know, if these things really have value... I had actually done some real estate appraisal. So I thought, if these things have value, then people should be willing to buy them for the price that's their actual value. And if they don't sell for that, they're not really worth that. And especially with eBay, where people all around the world can bid on it, I figure if somebody really wants it, this is going to be the actual value. So I started selling some of the Star Wars things, and some of it went for a lot. Some of it went for what I paid for it 25 years before that, or what my grandmother or whoever paid for it. And there's part of me that realized I feel like this has a value enough where I'm never going to really let my kids play with it. Although now I'm looking back, it might have been that way, but the truth is I don't think we really missed it. But it was enough money, extra money.
I think we got about $2,000 total from everything he sold.
Is that all you think?
Well, maybe it was like $2,500. I don't know. But it was a good chunk of change.
We had things like there were some little lapel pins I bought at the Hard Rock Cafe in London, and I sold one.
He bought it, what was it, $2? He bought it for $2 or something?
I think it was like $1.25 each or something. It was in pounds at the time, so I don't remember how it transfers. But when I sold it, I was expecting this will maybe go for $10 or something. And one was $287 and one was $170 some dollars. And I thought,
These
I really
dumb
like
Hard
these
Rock Cafe
pins, but I
pins.
just open up a box twice a year and say, oh, isn't that cool? And so I thought, I'm just going to take a picture of this and sell it. And when I saw how much money that was, I thought, wow, that is awesome. So I ended up selling. I sold Star Wars stuff. I sold Hard Rock Cafe stuff. I had some broadcast stuff that my dad had given me that I thought was his, like mementos, but it was just junk that he didn't want anymore. And so some of that stuff I put on there,
Like a
and
1960s microphone from NBC.
yeah, one of those kind of studio microphones.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have any use for it really, and when I thought it was something that was connected to him, I thought, oh, I'll save this because it's meaningful. Well, it wasn't meaningful. He just wanted to get rid of it. So I sold a lot of things, all that kind of stuff. But that really helped me to declutter my brain from having to take care of all this stuff. And it also helped me to realize some things have value and we need to pay that on our debt. And some things don't have value and we need to just get rid of it. So
Yeah. Donna says, my bank is charging me $8 maintenance fee for my savings account if it goes before $300 a month. It was just over $300 and it went down for one day and they charged me. I've been with them for years and it's always been wavered. I'm thinking of changing banks. Is that a good idea? Yes. Why would you pay $8 a month when you're getting $4 interest? Or even if you're getting that much. It's like one...
No, you're getting cents interest.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 0.01% interest or some, I don't know, it's some ridiculously low percentage now. And
if you've been with them for a long time, if they
No.
really want your business, they
Yeah.
can waive that for you.
I would change in a heartbeat, and if it's in the bank and they want to charge you a fee even if you change, I would put it in your mattress or put it in your underwear drawer or in your freezer or something, but I would not put it in the bank and have a fee. Why should you pay a fee for them to use your money? That's ridiculous.
Well, and I have to be careful because I don't want to. So, if you got into debt because of medical things, I understand it's difficult, but most people get into debt buying a lot of things they don't need.
Yeah.
And then later on, a lot of times people get upset with other people because of that.
Yeah.
The thing is, in a situation like that, I think it's important to realize, I got myself into this debt, therefore I'm going to do something about that. But at the same time, when a bank won't negotiate with you or a credit card company won't negotiate with you, you think, hey, I've paid you guys enough, and I'm going to move this to somebody else who's giving me a better rate. We actually had, when we were transferring credit cards around, one time Tara was trying to negotiate with these people. You usually don't have to negotiate. You can just take the offer and say, I've got this offer from this other place. Are you guys going to match it or no? And they don't, so you call the other place and switch it over. It's really easy. But there was one time where Tara she called and she was kind of playing a little hardball with them. And she said, okay, well, so this company will do it for me, so I'll just switch it over there. And the lady said, oh, well, that's kind of, what was the word she used? It was basically like she was saying that we were manipulating them by switching to another company. And I was thinking, that's the way that you guys sell credit. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with... I'm not saying it's the bank's fault that you got into debt. But at the same time, their mission is to make more money, and your mission is to get out of debt. So in those situations, it's good to realize, hey, I'm going to go with the best deal on this.
Mm-hmm.
And like if it's a bank that you've been with for a long time,
yeah,
I would switch right away if they don't.
Yeah, and one thing Mom pointed out, she said, if you're getting 4% on savings, which you're not getting 4% now.
So it's less than 1%.
It's less than 1% interest. So if you have a bunch of money in savings, but you're paying 20% interest, 26, 30% interest on your credit cards, that's crazy. So what I would do is I would save a couple of thousand. So like enough to pay for a cheap car if your car died. So let's say $2,500. I would keep $2,500 in savings, and then I would put all the rest and pay off your credit cards and get that sucker paid off. It's crazy to have huge amounts of money in savings. The same thing with your IRA. If your company's matching your IRA, okay, maybe. But to me, it's crazy to put your money in an IRA when you have all this debt. You don't need to be investing
at a much lower rate than what you're paying. Plus, a lot of those, I hate to say it, but a lot of those investments, it's good to have those investments, but if the market goes up and down and half your investment goes away, it would be better to have spent that money paying off your 26% interest credit card rather than to continue to maintain that debt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And did you mention you mentioned cars? So we had some neighbor with some friends who they like to buy new cars just because one of our friends, I think, just didn't want to have to sit on seats that other people had sat on before. So they spent, how much do you think they spent for that?
$26,000. So
$26,000.
by the time they paid for it all, it was going to be about $45,000 for interest and tax and extra insurance and everything.
But prior to spending that, she already was aware that they were having a debt crisis in the family. And both of them were spending that way. But the thing is, you have to think on those things. We always pay cash for cars, and we spend $3,000 to $6,000.
Mm-hmm.
$6,000 like for a family car, like a van,
Yeah.
and then $3,000 for just a regular car. They're not fancy cars, but they usually have air conditioning and a radio, and they're pretty comfortable, and they drive well. And so if you're spending $20-some thousand plus interest, and your marriage is on the rocks, and you're fighting with your spouse, and life is stressful, and you're getting bills, it just seems like it's worth giving up that little bit of luxury in order to get out of debt. Yeah,
and another thing people don't do, they don't calculate how much they have to work to pay for this. So like that car that my friend, that our friend had, that was like $45,000, that is 1 3/4. So 1 year and 9 months working just to pay for that car. Nothing else. If I told you you could take a year and 9 months off of work, but you had to have a cheaper car, well, let's say a year and 8 months off of work, because you've got to have a car. So let's say you get a cheap car. So if I said you had to take a year and 8 months off of work, but you couldn't drive a brand new car, would you do it?
You could still have a car with air conditioning and radio that drives well.
It's way more than worth it. So calculate, when you're ordering that $25 or $30 from the pizza place because you're too tired to cook, calculate, I just had to work 4.5 hours, because you have to do after taxes and after car gas and after all your work expenses. I just had to work 4.5 to 5 hours to pay for a pizza we're eating in 5 minutes, literally in 5 minutes. That is not worth it. We will have cereal before we'll do that. It's just, that is what we're talking about. You have to get into the mindset that this is, getting our debt paid off is the #1 priority, and our comfort isn't. And
especially when it's really not much difference in comfort between a used car and, a brand new car. It smells like a brand new car. Is that worth $26,000 to you?
Yeah. So Mandy wants to know, where did we get cheap cars? So the last 4 cars we've bought, 6 cars we bought. So we had 6 car accidents in a year and a half this last year. Only 2 were our fault. 1 was a very minor fender bender. 1 was my son's fault, and then the others weren't our fault.
Both of them were teenager drivers.
Yeah, teenage drivers. So we got our van. We talked to our mechanic, and he knew of some auctions that were going on, and he found our van for us.
So he went to an auction and just bid on what he thought was a good van, and we told him what our price range was, and he got what he thought was good, and we trusted him. So. And
then the other ones we all got on Craigslist, and no, that's not right. Another one we got because my niece, who we have custody of, she just happened to mention to her counselor at school that we were looking for another car for our daughter. And her counselor said, oh, well, I'm selling my car. So we got a nice Saturn with 170,000 miles for $1,800. Then we got the others on Craigslist. And we got Mike a Honda Accord for $1,200. And
140 when we got it?
It had, I think 140,000 on it. And it was working great. We've had it a year and a half, and it was working great. Now we need to get the air conditioner fixed. But for $1,200, that's a pretty good deal.
Well, and it would be in better shape now, except our son was driving pizza deliveries, and we let him drive it for 6 months for pizza. Yeah. So it took a lot of beating in that time, and for $1,200, it still runs.
Yeah. And then our son got his car from Habitat for Humanity sells cars. So like Goodwill, Habitat, those kinds of things. That's where he got his, and he paid $1,200 for it and has been driving it for 3 years. His was, he rear-ended his SUV and he rebuilt it with his own money. He spent $1,500 rebuilding it and is still driving it. Then we had 2 Toyota Camrys that we bought for our niece. The first one we got for $3,000 at Habitat also, but someone sideswiped her, so we just now got another one for her for $2,400 off of Craigslist. And the cars before that, we got a couple of off of Craigslist.
And
so,
typically, though, we don't just go buy the first one we see.
No.
We look around for, what, 5 or 7? I don't know. How many does it take for us to usually find one?
Usually it takes me a good, probably 10 to 15 cars that I've looked at. It really does. I look at a lot.
So what we do is we go look. I know a little bit about cars. Our son knows more, and we can always take it to a mechanic if we need to. But we'll just go and check it out, and we'll say, how do we feel about it? If one of us doesn't feel good about it, we don't get it.
Yeah.
But usually we look for mostly operational things. Like, is it likely to blow the engine soon? Is it going to need any major expenses, or is it in pretty good shape? And you can also tell a lot of times by the people that you talk to. When you look at the car, first of all, you can usually tell from the car pretty quick if there's something wrong with it. And if it seems like it's okay, you can get clues from the people. Like my son, when he was trying to buy cars, these guys would tell him, "Oh, it's a fast car, man. I'm a street racer, and it's really awesome." And we'd noticed that the parking brake wasn't working, and thinking, okay, well, that's great. I'm glad it's fast. Okay, well, thanks for showing it to us.
Yeah, if we see any oil on anything, we don't buy it.
Don't buy anything that's leaking fluids.
If it's on the engine, or if they say, oh, yeah, that's just a little oil spill that I need to clean up, no.
And if we're unsure, we'll ask our son, hey, what do you think about this? And he'll say, oh, that's a head gasket's about to blow.
Turn off the radio, turn off the AC and the
turn it on.
heat. No, turn it off. Have everything off in the car so you can listen for any strange noises in the engine, or any rattling, or any weird noises in the trunk, or anything like that. That's how we look for them. And we go through the Blue Book, and we try to get the Blue Book value or less. Now, Rhonda said by the time you spend money fixing up an old car, it's not worth it. You might as well get a new car. That is a lie straight from the pit of hell.
Well, how do you really think?
I hear that excuse all the time.
Well, it is if you buy a dumpy car. But that's the thing. We don't. We go look at it, like she said, 10 or I think it's been mostly around 10, but 10 or 15 cars, and we'll find cars where typically it's clear that the person takes care of it. I mean, people that say they give you verbal clues that make you realize they don't spend any money on this car. They don't take care of it at all, and it just happens to be running by the grace of God. Other people will bring out a humongous folder full of receipts. I mean,
those are the people you want. You want old ladies, old men, old couples who are retiring, going into a retirement home. We've got our last van for a couple who was doing just that. They had every single receipt of everything that had ever been done on the car. Those are the people you want to buy
from. And we've run into people that say, let me take off the tires and show you because the brakes are so beautiful and look at all the stuff I did to it.
Yeah.
Those people tend to be better for good cars.
And look at the seats and look at the interior. If there's cigarette burns, if the seats are really torn, if it's dirty, look in between the seats. So, where the seats come together in between here and at the back of the seats where they join right here. If it's nasty, dirty in there because people don't clean in between there, then you'll know these people detailed the car before we sold it, and they didn't actually take care of it on a regular basis.
We like cars when they haven't been cleaned too much before we see them, because it kind of gives us a sense of how dirty it normally is.
But back to Rhonda's thing.
We went to see one car. I got to say it. We went to see one car. We got there, and the tires were all flat. And they're like, oh, yeah, I forgot what they said. We could go fill it up at the... Yeah. And I was thinking,
if you want to buy it, then we can go fill it up. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. But back to Rhonda's thing about buying a new car, that it's cheaper. It is not cheaper, and we have proven that time again. One car Mike's folks bought for us, which was a lemon to begin with, and we didn't want it, but they bought it anyway.
And we were desperate.
It had 3...
I drove off a cliff before that.
It had 3,000 miles on it, and they paid 300,000 miles on it, and they paid $3,000 for it. So they spent $3,000 to begin with. 3 months after we had it, the engine got blown. We had to spend $1,500 to do that, so we're up to $4,500. 3 months after that, the transmission was blown, and we had to spend, was it $3,000? I think $3,000 to get that fixed. So we're up to $7,500 on a car right off the bat that was a complete lemon. Even having to replace the engine and the transmission with this car, we drove it for 8 years and it ended up costing us $1,000 a year. It is not worth it to buy a new, there is not any situation that I can say that it's worth paying the price of a new car, because just driving it off the lot, it depreciates a ridiculous amount.
Somebody said that here.
Yeah, you can't even,
it's not even worth what you owe on it after you drive it off the lot.
And you can drive it off that lot, get in a car accident that day, and your insurance company will not pay the full price that you just paid for it. Ask me how I know.
Actually, it's because we didn't buy it. We've never bought a new one, but
it happened to my brother.
Her brother and his wife bought a new car thinking we're going to save on repair expenses and all this. Well, first of all, they found out at some point only certain things were covered by the warranty, and some of the expenses they still had to pay repairs and maintenance on the new car while they were paying payments. But then there was an accident, and I don't even think it was his fault. Then the insurance company totaled out the car, and so they ended up getting paid the amount that they owed less $4,000 or something. I can't remember. It was thousands of dollars. So somebody else hit them, and it was the other person's fault, but the car's value wasn't what they owed on it, so the insurance companies totaled it, and they ended up owing money for a car they didn't even own anymore.
Yep.
And for us, that was an eye-opening experience, because we've never bought a new car, but that was another reason for us not to want to.
Yeah, it happens all the time. And so those are some of the ways that we save money so that we can pay off our debt. And we didn't mean to turn this into a whole car buying thing.
But cars are a big part of it.
Cars are a big part of it. And you can get cheap cars. I mean, like I just said, we just bought a car for $1,200 and we just bought a car for $1,800. Even if they both died now, we got our money's worth out of them. We would have paid like $50 a month to use those cars. How many car payments are $50 a month? None. So yeah.
Well, and some of this isn't necessarily going to apply to everyone, but some of the people like Big Bear Homestead was saying that places like AutoZone and O'Reilly, they'll help you find out what the problem is before you take it to a mechanic.
We just did that when we were looking for the last Camry for my niece. The service engine light was on, and the people were like, "Oh, that's nothing, it's nothing." We're like, "We're gonna go check it out." And there was an AutoZone across the street, so when we test drove it, we took it over there and had them put it on the sensor. It was too old, and they couldn't put it on their sensor, so we didn't buy it because we weren't gonna buy a car that we didn't know, and it was really iffy anyway. They said it was in great condition, and it wasn't. But on your test drive by AutoZone or O'Reilly's, and they can put it on the sensor for you and tell you if there's anything wrong, if the service engine light or something like that's on. So, that's a good one. And detail it yourself. Don't pay $200 to have cars detailed. You can pay yourself and just do it yourself. What I do is I get the shop vac out. I spray down the seats really well with vinegar and baking soda and a little bit of Dawn if there's spots, and then I suck it up with the shop vac or carpet cleaner. You can do that yourself. Take a toothbrush to all the radio and all that kind of stuff. You can do all that yourself. Take the mats out, spray a little bit of Dawn, take a scrub brush, scrub the mats down, rinse them off, let them dry. It's not hard at all. So
well, and Lucy Lou says don't buy a new car, buy a gently used car, and that's exactly it. And the thing is, it may take a little bit of looking to find that gently used car, but if you're saving $20,000 and you have to take a little time out to look at maybe 10 different cars over the period of 2 weeks, that's a huge amount of savings. And if you're in debt, that's going to really, really count a lot.
And especially if you can buy the grandma and grandpa cars, those are the best ones. If you can find those, which you can, they're out there. We've had a couple of those, and they've been really good cars. The one Mom just got, a guy was 90 years old and turned it into Habitat, couldn't drive anymore, and he kept it in pristine condition. And she paid, how much did we pay? I think it was like $3,000 for a car that had 80,000 miles on it.
It's a Chrysler or something?
A Concorde is what it was. And so 7 to 10 years we try to go around there, but the last couple were 20 years old, but they were like a Toyota Camry, like we said, so they were really, good, strong cars. So.
And also then your insurance is cheaper and your license plates, your tags are cheaper.
Yeah.
Everything is cheaper.
Yeah, and on new cars you have to pay higher insurance and higher tags too. That's crazy. Donna wants to know, what do we think about leasing cars? I think it's a huge waste of money.
It's like buying a car, except you don't get to keep it at the end.
Yeah. Why would you pay $200 or $300 a month to just borrow somebody else's car and then you have nothing in the end? No, I wouldn't at all. Well,
and a short little thing, we probably ought to, if there's anything other than cars, we might want to talk about that before the end. But one interesting little thing, maybe, I had a job interview once at a bank, and it was a job that I thought I already had because we moved from out of state to go get that job. But anyway, the reason I didn't take the job is because the guy said, "Hey, you're going to be a loan officer here, and if you do that, we don't want you to make loans to people who can afford them. We want you to make loans to people who really need to borrow money." He said, "We want you to make loans to people who don't need that." Mm-hmm. Where am I going with this? So essentially, their mission isn't to get you the best deal. Their mission is to make as much money as they can. Mm-hmm. And you can't fault them for trying to make business, but you have to realize they're not on your team, and the debt isn't going to help you. So you want to see what other questions we have here?
Yeah, I was just looking for comments while Mike was talking. So we wouldn't lease at all. I've never leased. I don't recommend it. I think it's a really bad idea.
Carolyn says she buys her designer clothes from thrift stores, and we did exactly that.
Yeah. And so that's one of the ways. We drove cars that we could afford, and that, we could. Jay says, "I like your tip about Habitat for Humanity." Yeah, Habitat and Goodwill all have really good cars sometimes. Sometimes they don't, but sometimes they do. But those places like our Habitat, he has to go through a safety check. So the car has to go through a safety check and basic types things that he has to fix before he can sell it. And here in Colorado, we have to have emissions, so it has to pass emissions and all that.
And our guy, because they're a nonprofit and he doesn't want to take advantage of you, he tends to ask a lower price than it's worth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now we know him. We've bought, I think 3 or 4 cars from our local Habitat. We know the guy really well now, so now he knows when I'm coming in, he's like, "Oh, what you looking for today?" So
I was going to say, Heather says, she kind of triggered something in my mind. She said, "We're midway through our plan to be debt-free. Should be there in 6 months. We've been debt-free twice before, and it felt so good. Can't wait to be there again. It requires a big sacrifice." And it does require a big sacrifice, but for me as a guy, and especially for somebody who didn't see debt as big a problem as Tara did at the beginning, it helped me as a visual person. I ended up making this chart, a graph.
This was before computers, yeah.
Where here's the money. Well, you could still do this with computers, but I had a graph that had, this is how much we owe, and this is how much we expect to pay in each month, and it projected how long is it going to be before that's zero. And each month we would mark that, and it was almost, for me, as a visual person and a guy, I think it really helped me because I always wanted to beat that projection. Mm-hmm. So I was more intense. We were always
trying to be ahead of where we thought we would be.
Yeah, so I was more intense, and we would mark what the actual was, and we'd say, "Wow, the actual is lower than the projected. We're going to pay it off sooner," and that was really exciting for us.
Let's see. Does anybody else have any last questions before we go?
Yes, Andrea says quick loans are horrible. Absolutely, they're way high interest and terrible.
Yeah. So if you're wanting to get some of our tips in print, so a lot of people have asked for print. So we put our Dig Out of Debt in print. We have a bunch of these in our Dig Out of Debt book. As we're telling you to get out of debt, buy our book, which is kind of dumb, but.
But if you're really struggling, and I was talking to a friend yesterday. I think he said that they pay $40 or $50 for their family of 4 with 2
young kids.
I guess for their family of 5 with 3 younger kids. I think they said $50 to go to Wendy's. And I was thinking, wow, of course, they're not complaining about their debt or their financial situation, but I bet that's really not uncommon for people that are seriously in debt.
Yeah, and we'll spend
$50
for
at Wendy's.
6 people going to Wendy's. We'll spend what is it, $20?
Well, we were spending
15?
like $11, but now that the boys are getting a little older and eating more, it's more like 15 or.
And that's 4 teenagers. Well, that's 3 teenagers. Wait, 1, 2. Yeah, that's 3 teenagers and a 7-year-old, and we'll spend less than $20.
It's not like 15. We're making them share a hamburger. Like
no,
they get to
we're
actually
not.
eat something.
So, and then if you're wanting to cut your grocery bill, check out our Dining on a Dime cookbook. We have over 1,200 recipes and tips, and I guarantee you, I've had 100% guaranteed refund on this book for more than 18 years now. I've had 1 return, and that was only because the person was vegan and they didn't feel that they could substitute the recipes, which you can, by the way. There's only 40 recipes that call for meat. But our Dining on a Dime cookbook will pay for itself in the first trip to the grocery store. We've had person after person tell us this time and time again. So if you're really wanting to get serious, and this is how we paid $350 a month for a family of 6 for groceries for years and years. It's a little bit higher now because we have, I have special diets and that kind of thing, but I still do not spend more than $5 for dinner for our entire family for dinner. I mean, not per person. That's for the whole family. I spend $5 to $7. I don't spend more than that on dinner.
Well,
and so...
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Before we close, I was going to say, if you're in debt and you just cannot find any way to pay it off, it's probable that you have some incorrect beliefs about things, like on the car thing. A used car is going to cost more in maintenance and stuff, and it's just not true. But there are a lot of things that people believe that aren't true that cause them to be more in debt.
Yep.
And somebody asked us again, how is it that we pay off debt? Do we want to sort of summarize the quick version?
No, I mean, we had a version last Saturday, so go back on YouTube and check on YouTube. It's how we paid off our $20,000, and then this is the second part. So just go back and rewatch both the videos because we tell in there how we did it. Mandy wants to know, the recipes in the cookbook healthy as well as cheap? Yes, they are. I mean, there's lots of really good healthy recipes in here.
But they're regular food healthy.
Yeah, but it's regular cooking. We're not talking weird cooking or anything like that. It's regular cooking.
And if you go to the page on our store, I guess we could share that.
What's that question? Oh, yeah, put the store page on there.
If we go to the page on our store about the book, it actually gives you a list of some of the recipes and some of the ingredients.
Yeah, and you can see. And it has things how to make your own enchilada sauce, how to make tacos, how to make... scroll down, there was somebody else who had a question.
Yeah, Heather says food was an area where they cut back hugely and it made a big difference, and that's absolutely true.
Scroll down. Let's see, Ange wants, what do you think of multiple accounts for different uses, for food, savings, etc.? I wouldn't have multiple checking or savings accounts. I mean, if you want to put it in an envelope and carry it in your purse or something, that's fine. Like if you want to budget $200 for groceries a month, you could put that $200 in an envelope and carry it. But
the envelope system would be better for that.
Yeah.
Because accounts get more complicated, and that'll cause you more grief in the end.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. It's all these different areas that you save, and then you can put it towards your debt. So instead of spending $40 for the pizza delivery, spend $5 for dinner, put that $35 on your credit card.
Spend $5 for the pizza at the store and cook it at home and
Yeah.
save $35.
I mean, if you just don't even want to make your own homemade pizza, which is really pretty cheap and easy, but that's fine, buy a frozen one at the store for $3.50 to $5, and then put that $35 on your debt, and that's how you do it.
Well, in a sense, it's kind of like losing weight in a way. You don't have to do this you don't have to cut back really hard forever, but you do have to cut back really hard to get out of that debt, and then try to pay within your means after that, and not charge. Just resolve not to charge anymore.
Yeah.
And essentially, it was really taking every bit of extra we had and paying it off, and always paying the smallest balance first, because
you'll get some headway.
Because if you pay $30 a month on 2 cards, if one card is gone, you can just pay the $60 on the next card, and when that one's gone, you pay $90 on the third card.
So Ashley wants to know, how do you get out of debt when you have more than 3 credit cards plus regular bills? You do all these things we just said. You buy your kids' clothes at the garage sale. You take that savings and you put it on your lowest credit card and get it paid off. You just keep plugging away. If you save $4 on dinner that night, you take that $4 and you put it on your credit card. You just have to keep going, and you have to start cutting in all of these things.
And once you see a lot of that debt go, you'll get so excited, you'll just get fired up to want to do more.
Yep.
When you say, man, you know, I owed $36,000 before, and now I owe $30,000. Well, that doesn't sound like that big of a change, but it is.
Yeah.
Especially when you see that you're now paying off, you know, $1,000 a month on it instead of $200 a month because you paid off other stuff and now you have the money available.
Yeah. Any additional that you can put on your principal, put it on there. If you get a tax refund, put it on there. Do not go out and buy a new TV. Don't go out and put your kids in sports or buy them a new whatever.
And just a little success at the beginning will make you more excited, and then you'll hopefully be able to look more you'll come up with more ideas on how to save. Like the clothes thing. So many people want to buy all their clothes new, even when they're paying off debt at the department store. You can buy clothes at thrift stores for like $0.25 or $1 or something, and they're name brand clothes if you just look a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it is. And Weed Tree Bonsai. Okay. On YouTube says you eat one.
It's like a bonsai.
You eat an elephant one bite.
Bonsai Daniel-san.
You eat an elephant one bite at a time. Exactly.
That's
We have
exactly
that
it.
saying in dining on it. We have that saying in here. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Because that's what you do, and eventually you'll get through that elephant. It may take you a year or two, but you'll get through.
And when you're done, it's going to be so much better.
Yeah.
You're going to feel so glad to be out of debt.
And to put it in perspective, we've been married for 20 some odd years. How many? 22?
22. Almost 22.
Almost 22 years. And we've maybe had 3 or 4 fights over money that entire time. We never fight about money because we don't have anything to fight about, because we both agree that this is how we're going to do it. We both agree we're going to stay out of debt. We both agree that we're going to get our bills paid off and that our bills are paid first. And so we just don't ever fight about money. So, you know, that's one of the things that you have, you know, we've saved on divorce costs. So.
Totally. Wow, it almost looks like we could talk about this subject every Saturday.
I know.
Maybe we run out of questions.
Maybe we need to talk about this every Saturday. I don't know. Just kidding.
But Deep South Homestead is waiting to bring you guys some.
Good. Please head over to Deep South Homestead on YouTube. They're on next on the Homestead Network. We have a huge pile of people on there that are really great at what they do, teaching us how to homestead, how to do things so that you can be more self-reliant and you can get out of debt and those kind of things. So please head over to Deep South and and watch them. And we will be back on Monday at 4:30 p.m. Mountain Time. And we are changing it to Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday only now. The live shows are killing us. Live shows are killing me. So we're only going to do Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. So Monday and Wednesday at 4:30 p.m.
And then
Mountain.
Saturday staying at 6, just like we are now.
Yep.
PM Mountain Daylight Time.
Yep. And Big Bear, we're going to talk tacos. I need to make that recipe while watermelons are still in. He has a watermelon pork taco, which just sounds really weird, but it might be good. So I'm going to try it and see. So, all right, guys, have a good night. We'll see you later.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Don't forget to go to livingoutdime.com.